Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. I'm your host Scott, and back with me as always is my trusty co-host Dan, and we are back talking more distance swimming. Last week we had Dan Whin on the podcast. This week we're going one further and we're talking open water in the Seine with Toby Robinson.
Yeah, Toby Robinson, first time Olympian, so it'd be good to get his thoughts on what he thought of the whole event, I guess. And someone who had first-hand experience of what it was like swimming in the Seine in Paris, which of course we'll dive into. I'm sure you're all like us, and we all thought that was horrible with the amount of people getting ill from swimming in it. But let's see what Toby has to say about his experience racing out in those waters.
Yeah, like you said, there was a lot of publicity heading into this open water race about the water quality, whether the race would or wouldn't take part. But actually, at the end of the day, a lot of eyes were on a fascinating battle in some ridiculous currents. So, please welcome onto the podcast to discuss all this week, Toby Robinson. Toby, thank you for joining us back on the podcast yet again to talk more open water. First of all, congratulations on your swim out in Paris. What was it like to race in your first Olympic Games?
Oh, well, thank you. First and foremost, thanks for having me on back again. Swimming in the Olympics in Paris in such an iconic venue that the Seine River right through the centre of Paris was, once in a lifetime experience. I'll never ever forget it. Absolutely incredible from start to finish. The holding camp in Reims, moving into the village, and then the event itself was so memorable and like no other competition I've experienced before.
Was it different in terms of, like, you say you went to the holding camp in Reims, so it was different that you had no crossover with the actual pool swimming team?
No, some of the pool swimmers are left in dribs and drabs. Those guys swimming towards the end of the meet left later. But the last guys to leave left on the same day that we arrived. So no, there wasn't any crossover. And Team GB actually opened up the pool to public swimmers when we were there in Reims. So it was funny because we had two lanes to ourselves, and then next to us was a big inflatable obstacle course. The kids were running up and down while we were, swimming the lengths up and down in our couple of lanes.
Oh wow!
But it was, Reims is a lovely city, really beautiful, and I'd recommend anyone who's listening to visit.
So would you say swimming in the Seine was a true sort of bucket list moment then? Does it get any better than that?
As an open water swimmer, I would say, yeah, amazing. Such an iconic venue. We swam down from the Pont Alexandre Twart Bridge, down 800 metres downstream, right through the centre of Paris. Every time I looked up to sight to see where I was going, I would see the Eiffel Tower. And that was one of my spotting markers. Beforehand, you kind of, because the buoys are sometimes quite difficult to spot, you look for... usually it's trees or the odd building on the side of the bank which lines up with the buoy. So my spotting marker this time was the actual Eiffel Tower, which was, incredible. Such an amazing venue to swim in.
What was your mindset heading into these Olympic Games? Because obviously it is always like, it's a dream of any swimmer. Like me and Dan, we swam as kids. It's always a dream to go to these Olympic Games, and then for it to be almost this big legacy event, because it was talked about a lot heading into these games, racing into the River Seine, more than any other open water event at the Olympics that I've known, because before they've done them at just like when like Rowan Lakes, and I know like that LA one looks like it's going to be in a Rowan Lake again. So how did you approach it in terms of, okay, there's a lot of eyes on this compared to other Olympic Games? Was it like the buzz was even more heading in?
There was loads of media going into the games around water quality in the Seine specifically. Most of the time, I spoke about it when I was asked about it, but before the race, I was trying to block that out and focus on my own performance in the river. I wanted to go in and just give it my best shot, see what I can do. Maybe challenge for a medal, but if not, I would have been happy with top 10. Unfortunately, I didn't get that because of mistakes I made during the race. But I am still proud of myself. I gave it my best, and yeah. But going back to a lot of the hype before the games, there was so much talk about water quality. We kind of get given like a kind of maybe a response by British Swim to say, we say, we're doing everything that we can do, and we'll just race what we can on the day. So that's what we were doing beforehand. But afterwards, I'm more than happy to talk more about it.
Well, you briefly said just then that you made a few mistakes in your race. Can you kind of talk us through how the race panned out for you?
Now, this race was so interesting because I don't know if you guys watched it, but going down one way, there was such a strong current.
Yeah.
So we were swimming 40 seconds per 100. Approximately.
Oh, man, that is a triathlete
so that's
dream,
5
isn't it?
seconds quicker than the 100 meters world record.
Yeah.
Oh my god! So what sort of effect does that have on your swimming then? If you're swimming at that sort of pace?
Pacing, I guess. Yeah.
Well, yeah, when we I'd never swam in anything like this before, so it was a new experience to me. Drafting's a bit harder because people are stretched out a bit more. But what was so interesting is when you whipped around that buoy at the far end, you almost had to put the brakes on going into that buoy, because you'd whip around that buoy and you'd carry on going downstream, and you'd have to fight the current going across to the other buoy, and then you'd have to go against the current on the way back.
And you saw them on the way back really like hugging the wall.
Yeah, because the current's stronger in the middle of the of the river than it is on the side of the river. So we had to go right over there and hug the wall. We did a little recce 2 days before the race where we got in the river, and that's what we kind of figured out. Hugging the wall, cutting in at certain points. That's what we figured out. But anyway, the mistake I made was at the end of the first lap, I kind of got caught out by the current. I got caught into a strong part of the current, and the front pack of 12 managed to get away. And once you've lost the feet going with the current, it's so hard to get those feet back. Now, I felt I was really good enough to be competitive in that front pack, but after I missed the front pack, I had to reset myself and think, maybe I can't bring it back to that front pack, but I can do what I can to try and win this second pack. So I decided to set a very, very strong pace at the front of that second pack and stretch it out, and I think that's what I did.
I'm just looking at like your progress through the race here, and it's always improving from like lap 2.5 onwards.
From lap 2.5, I figured out, because at that point I'd lost the front pack, and I had to come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to get a medal in this race, so let's just try and get the best result I can. It took me a couple of laps to get my head around that, and that's when I decided, right, sit at the front of the front pack and just blaze it, because sit at the front of the second pack, and blaze it, because I realised that I was one of the quickest 1500 swimmers in that second pack. I've got the speed to help me, so just sit in there and push it along, and that's what I did. A little bit disappointing to miss from that front pack, but I gave it a valiant effort after that.
Yeah. How hard was it to adjust your mindset, knowing that you weren't going to medal or finish top 10 potentially?
Well, the good thing about a 10K is you've got a lot of time during the race, and usually you have loads of different, in a 200 freestyle in the pool, you're just up and down, and you're finished. You don't have time for many thoughts to go through your head, what I mean? But in a 10K, you really do, and it's a battle of the mind rather than just the body itself.
Yeah.
So not just in this race, you're constantly going through tactical decisions, trying to motivate yourself to carry on fighting for 2 hours. You know what I mean? And I went into this race thinking, I'd love to try and challenge for a medal, and it took me a little while to manage to get over that. But eventually, you've got to accept that where you were in the race and to fight for all the places you can get.
Now, you said a little bit like you had the recce going into the swim, which was really helpful, because I mean, I'm sure at points there was fears that wasn't going to be able to happen. But how helpful was it as well to have Leah racing the day before and to actually watch a race take place in that swimming, and how much of a tactical debrief and preview went into yours and Hector's prep?
That was definitely a benefit that we had that Leah didn't. We got to talk to Leah the day before our race, after her race, about how she experienced it, about where the currents were strongest, about what kind of happened in the race, what drafting in a pack's like, how the feeding works during the race. So that was very, very, very useful. That was useful to us. Yeah,
it's probably more of a team sport in that aspect than people realize heading into sort of an Olympic Games where it's just this one name with a flag next to them.
Yes, I mean sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes Leah gets information off us. But what I found interesting, speaking to the Hungarians who actually came first and third in that race, so a very successful outing for the Hungarians. They've been training in the Danube River. It goes through Budapest for a whole year before that. So it shows that level of preparation that they've put into this by swimming in the river currents has really worked off for them. Paid off for them in this race.
I mean, do you think in the future then we're going to see more river races?
I hope so. It adds a dynamic to open water that we don't usually see. The currents made for a very, very interesting race. Speaking to a lot of the spectators afterwards, said, it was a lot different to some open water races we see, and it was a spectacle. So I would hope to see more.
Yeah, I was going to say, just purely from a spectator's point of view, everyone was so much closer to the racing because you're lying in the banks, you're literally over watching the river. Whereas if
amazing.
You guys are in a lake, we see the feed and that's about it.
It's like a marketing dream with, like you say, like the Eiffel Tower's just in the background. Like, oh my God, it doesn't get much better, does it?
Yeah. Seeing those spectators lining the course was incredible because usually for open water swimming, it's not a great spectator sport for people at the venue because we'll just swim out to sea that way and we'll come back 2 hours later and spectators can't see them. But it was amazing. We had even thousands of people lining the Seine. And this tends to happen for the Olympic Games. I remember when I was a teenager myself, I went to watch London 2012 in the Serpentine, and there were thousands of people watching that. And our sport, open water swimming, gets it really raises the profile of the sport at an Olympic Games when they put us in iconic venues like the Seine, and that's what they need to keep doing, not just in the Olympic Games, but World Championships and World Cups.
Yeah, I fully agree. It should be we actually had a chat, me and Dan, just before we got on the air. We've spoken to you about this before, and we're just like, well, the Tour de France, it feels like a cycling race, but at the same time, it's a publicity for look at all this beautiful countryside around France. Come visit, come see these little towns that we're stopping off every day. And it feels like open water has that potential of look at this city, look at this amazing river in the middle of it. Like, actually, me and Dan have been to Budapest. We've seen the river there. We've seen the amazing city that is. There's so many other cities that I could name around the world where it probably is clean enough for you to go racing. Like the river in the middle of Copenhagen. That's an amazing city to go see. Like, it feels like I really hope racing in the Seine is like a tipping point for what open water could be.
It's like untapped potential almost. Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is...
It is really one of the draws of the sports, these iconic venues. Swimming's great, but pools are pools everywhere in the world. They're the same. But that is one of the draws from open water swimming, the amazing places that you can swim in. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the race then. And one of the things heading into this race was that World Aquatics opened it up to the 1,500 swimmers, as well as people who had qualified at the World Championships. Do you think that made the event deeper and better having the pool swimmers in with you guys?
It was kind of a bit of an unknown before we were going in on how these guys would fare, because some of them are very incredibly fast pool swimmers. But actually, especially in the boys' race, the results didn't necessarily show that the pool swimmers could translate their skills to open water. So it made for an interesting race, but it does just show how different these two sports are. 1,500 swimming in the pool and open water. You've got to put years, and you see all the guys who are good in the pool and good in open water. They've put years and years into open water swimming, and it does show how the difference in skills that you need.
Yeah, I mean, we did think, knowing that Seine was going to be choppy and with the currents, it was going to be, we thought it'd be much more suitable to the open water specialists compared to the pool swimmers. Like, take Tokyo, for example, was a lot calmer than what it was swimming in the Seine. But I think, does it build the sport up in terms of publicity and profile? Because you've got like Dan Whiffen swimming, and you've got Paltrinieri and Welbrick, the ones who are actually medalled in the pool beforehand.
I think it definitely does. Yeah, getting these guys in, shows shows that people are taking the sport seriously. I mean, it's an Olympic gold medal there to be won.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everyone who's got the ability should be there to try and win it. And as I said, it's a spectacular event that I can't see why anyone would not want to participate in. It's being right there in the centre of Paris. An absolutely amazing experience. Yeah, but as you said, it really did. That race specifically really did kind of play to open water swimmers because it was such a technical race, with the currents.
When it literally is just technical and tactical ability in the pool, in the water. It's not like brute strength or endurance, or what is it that made you guys
a bit of everything to be a great open water swimmer. You need speed to finish the race. You need endurance to deal with the 1 hour 50-minute element of it. You need tactical awareness. You need good technique to be efficient to get through the water. You need a bit of you do need a bit of brute strength to deal with other swimmers fighting you. So I say it's a sport that you need everything for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to be good at everything to do that.
Well, Dan Whiffen, he came on the podcast last week, and we very briefly talked about his open water, and he said it was his first and last. So I don't know how you know him more better than we do, but
he was in that second pack that I was pushing along, and he brought himself through towards the front of the second pack on the penultimate lap. And I saw him right at the end of the course on the last lap, and I was like, right, we've got about 800 metres to go, and guess who's next to me? The 800-metre Olympic champion. But then I noticed he was swimming not right against the wall like the rest of us. He was swimming quite out in the middle of the river most of the time, and I think that's what cost him a little bit.
yeah,
I mean, he did tell us to bring up his last turn to you, that he nailed that last turn. And
He did, and that's when I saw him, 800 metres from the finish. Oh, God, 800-metre Olympic champion right next to me. But yeah, no, I think he did well. He did well. There were a lot of people who didn't finish that race.
Yeah,
The 6 guys didn't finish the race because it was a tough one.
it did look savage.
yeah.
So anyone who finished did incredibly.
That was his goal in the end, wasn't it, Dan? He literally just wanted to finish.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let's talk water quality then. While we're here, first of all, did you get ill after racing this race? Because there were a few, like Dan being probably one of the more high-profile names of someone getting ill.
Badly ill, yeah.
I didn't get ill. We had a very strict procedure after the race. We took antibiotics. We washed everything down straight away. Mouthwash, the works, right, to stop us getting ill after the race, and it worked. All 3 of us didn't get ill. We did the same procedure as the triathletes who didn't get ill, but maybe some teams didn't follow that procedure. And I know some people after the race did get ill. And water quality is a massive issue in open water, but I also noticed that it only ever gets brought up before the Olympic Games.
Okay.
Water quality obviously has been a massive thing in the media before this Olympic Games. It was big before Tokyo, not quite as big as now, but it was big before Tokyo, and it was big before Rio. But we don't tend to talk about water quality for the rest of the year. We don't talk. I've never heard anyone talk about water quality before a World Championships race. We swim 7 or 8 10Ks a year in all different kinds of open water swims, and it only tends to get brought up for the Olympics because it's so much more profile in that
high
sense.
profile.
Yeah. So by that logic, then, if you're talking, you race 7 or 8 times a year open water, do you have this exact same procedure after a race?
We've been working on that procedure for the last year or so, knowing that there will be a problem in the Seine.
Okay, so like if you race tomorrow in Windermere, you wouldn't do the same sort of thing.
No, I mean, because we've put those procedures in place now, we probably would as well.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Was there any skepticism of any of the swimmers that they didn't want to actually attempt swimming in the Seine at all?
Well, I'm not sure. Nothing in the British camp. We were all ready to go in the British camp. I'm not too sure about what other conversations were had around with other teams. I spoke to a few guys, and they were said, I'd much rather it be in the river, in the rowing lake. Sorry,
Okay.
but I'll race it if it's in the river, obviously. Okay. My own skepticism was whether the race would actually go ahead. I was scared because there was so much in the media, and there was so much talk about it at the Olympics. Oh, it's going to be postponed. Oh, it's raining a lot, so the sewage is overflowing.
Yeah.
So in myself, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, I just want to race on the 9th of August in the Seine.
Yeah, I guess you don't want anything to change your preparation heading into Olympic Games. Like if you've gone to bed on the 8th of 8th of August, you don't want then to wake up on the 9th and it be pushed to the 10th, and you've got to go through that all again. It's a mental adjustment.
And that happened with the triathletes one of the days. But it went ahead, and in general, I think the fact that water quality has been raised, on such a high profile for this Olympics, in general, it's a good thing. I think it shows that sport, is a reason to have change, to create change. Paris Council has spent so much money in cleaning up the Seine, and this is great for Paris in general. We can get people swimming in the Seine in future recreationally. And it shows to me, like, why can't other cities, like, imagine London cleaning up the Thames? Paris has shown it can be done. They've cleaned up the river, and they've held 4 successful events in the river.
I suppose it depends. It depends if they want to keep doing that same events in the Seine in the future, because then they may not do it afterwards. I don't know. I'm guessing.
No, the Paris Council have come out and said that they want.
They are going to do it.
This is part of the legacy of the Olympic Games, is to have people swimming in this river.
You have to if you're spending that money.
Keeping it clean. And it showed, the Olympic Games have showed that cleaning up our rivers can be done. It'd be great to see if the UK government can follow suit of what the Paris Council have done and clean up the Thames and get people swimming in the Thames. How amazing would that be?
I hope. Like me and Dan we've travelled a bit of Europe, and there are so many rivers around Europe where it is safe to get in, and it's just it's a completely different environment. I know we're talking like elite sport here, but from just a general quality of life, I would happily move to Copenhagen tomorrow, because you can just jump in the river and do some lengths for free. And Britain are way behind the rest of Europe on water quality in our sort of natural rivers and lakes. And we could definitely take some lessons from how Paris have cleaned up the Seine.
Definitely.
What would make the legacy of this race and this event at the Olympic Games successful for you? Like, I know we've spoken a little bit about it there.
I hope it's raised the profile of open water swimming as a sport. I think probably a lot of people have watched that sport who haven't watched it before, and I enjoyed it because it was an enjoyable race to watch. So I think, getting more fans into open water, that's part on World Aquatics to keep the entertainment value high. Do you know what I mean? So that's a legacy. And the other legacy is what I was just talking about, water quality, raising that issue, keeping water quality worldwide high. Hopefully Britain can do something similar. So I'd say those are the 2 big legacies that hopefully we can take from.
Yeah, I guess it's all marketing, isn't it? Marketing for water pollution and all that sort of stuff, and clarity, and just trying to push open water as a sport, because it's a different sport. It's a different sport compared to pool swimming, and so try and distinguish that both of them need to be classed as different sports almost.
I think most people watching that would have realised.
Yeah, they surely.
Considerably different. You do need to be a good pool swimmer to be a good open water swimmer.
Need the background, I suppose.
Need the background there, but you need. I would say I'm very biased, but you need a lot more skills as well. As I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the race and the water quality, but how was your Olympic Games and your Olympic experience as a whole? Like, what are you going to take away from this heading into the next Olympic cycle of your swimming career?
Oh man, absolutely! I just loved being there. Being in the village was amazing. Being around all those other athletes from all the different sports. I mean, sometimes people come to Loughborough University campus and they say, "Oh, it's amazing how many people you see running around or carrying hockey sticks," because it's the biggest sport university in the UK. But being in the Olympic Village, every second guy is running somewhere, training for some event in the Olympic Village, and it's an incredible atmosphere to be around. yeah, I won't forget it for the rest of my life.
Well, the next one's in LA. How do you reckon that will how that will go?
Yeah, I think LA, as we saw in the closing ceremony, they know how to put on a good show, don't they?
Yeah.
That's the centre of entertainment in the world. So I think the LA Olympics will be, hard to match.
It's going to be warm. Definitely going to be warm, I imagine.
Hard to match. It'll be interesting. I haven't seen any news about where the open water swim will be. So I don't know if it'll be a sea swim because LA's right on the coast.
That would be really good for because it's surfing.
The surfing, yeah, but also the shark-infested waters.
So you're looking forward to that one then.
So we've got water quality issues this time round. We've got the shark-infested waters next time round.
It could be what's needed to promote conservation of sharks. There you go.
There we go, yeah.
There'll
Absolutely.
be multiple packs then. There won't just be 2 leading packs. It'll just everyone just scattered all over the place.
Make it a fast race, I suppose.
Yeah.
My sharks.
One question I've got, we get the privilege of speaking to Olympic guests. So I'd love to ask this. When you're finished racing and you guys get to then go to other events and you get to see different Olympic sports happening, how do you guys get the tickets and how do you get the access to that? How does it work?
Yeah, I can tell you how it works, but I actually never got to go to see another Olympic event.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because you were at the end?
We were right at the end of the games. Actually, that is a lie. I went to see the marathon, but it was an unticketed event.
Okay, that's
So I went out and just saw them run past. The swimmers are lucky that they finish in the first week, so they've got the second week to go out and see what they want to see. But I finished on the Friday, and the games finished on the Sunday, so I saw the marathon, and that was it. But we were in like a WhatsApp community, Team GB WhatsApp community, and any spare tickets that they have at the end of the day or for the next day, they put a list out, and you can pick where you want to go.
Oh, wow.
And what you want to go and see. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. I'm a little bit jealous of that because I'd be going to every single one available.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of the swimmers were going.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
I know Luke and Max and Joe went to see the skateboarding, which looked amazing. And I was actually in my flat. I was with that guy Andy Mack, and he was the 50-year-old British skateboarder. And he was an amazing guy. He was showing me kickflips down the hallway on his skateboard. Bit different to the usual kind of person you might end up in a flat with.
Oh,
yeah. Since you've come back, you've had your homecoming. How was that?
Yeah, that was a great party. Great to, still, it's just elongating the experience of the games, really. A great celebration of Team GB.
And because you've made the Olympics for the first time, have you got the compulsory now tattoo on you?
Yeah, I'll show it to you if you want. I've got it right here.
Oh, it's on the arm, of course it is.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I got that
hanging around there.
I got it done Friday. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Very good.
All right. Yeah, I didn't wait long to get that.
Understandable. So what's next? You say you got the tattoo Friday. What's next? When are you back in? Let's not even think about back in the pool.
No, I'm just taking a few weeks off to think about my next goals. See what's what. Really. Yeah.
Any holiday plans at all? Is it literally just sort of vegging at home?
Oh no, I've been here, there, and everywhere over the last week since getting back. I just want to chill at home for a little bit. Maybe book something last minute with Abby, my fiance. But other than that, no, not really.
Nice. Well, Toby, it's been great chatting to you about all things Seine and open water swimming. Now, we do usually finish with some quickfire guest questions.
Okay.
And as a previous guest, we've asked you these questions before, but we've got some Paris editions. So, what was your favourite moment in Paris?
That's easy, racing in the Seine. Such an iconic thing that not many people can say they've done.
Who was the top non-swimming athlete you met in Paris?
Oh, it's got to be my flatmate Andy Mack. What a legend in the hallway. Legendary.
What was a key set you did in the build-up to Paris?
Oh, that's a tough one. We've done loads. In the few weeks leading up to Paris, we did multiple 10K simulations. So we kind of simulate different ways the race might go: fast start, fast finish, fast at various points in between. So we properly suit up, and we do a 10K split into various different ways of doing it. So that was a key part of my preparation.
So that's like swimming straight for 2 in a bit.
Not swimming straight. We'll do something like 4 2000s and then 10 100s reduced to max, something like
I
that.
see. Yeah.
You
Okay.
know? But a big hefty set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No taper like the pool swimmers then.
Well, we do have a little taper. The last week or so, I would say we dropped to 50k instead of 80k.
That's what most pool swimmers are at.
Doesn't Adam Peaty he limits himself to 50, 60, doesn't he? That's a hard week for him.
Yeah, that's all right for us. That was a treat.
Well, Toby, thank you so much for coming on to this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. A massive congratulations for your achievement at Paris, for racing in the River Seine. It looked unbelievably hard, but also an unbelievable experience. As someone who loves open water, I cannot imagine swimming up that river.
Although I'd love to go 40 point for 100 free. That would be incredible.
That on the other side. That on the other side of it would be good. Enjoy your downtime, and hopefully we'll catch up with you on a poolside very soon.
Okay, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Congratulations, Toby, and well done getting the ink.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.